Dear Thomas, table besides this notebook, hopefully nothing, but it wouldn't hurt to check the floor to make sure a finger or two didn't roll under the counter. You and I just talked and you're on your way here. That gives me plenty of time to write this letter and finish what I started. I want you to understand why I wanted to force you to come here by threatening to burn the place down with me. That was the only way I could get you to leave town and come here. You'd think I was crazy if I told you over the phone that I solved the mystery of why no one ever found Mom's body. The answer's in the kitchen drawer. Of course, by the time you get here, I'll be gone. I would say goodbye to you in person, but for myself, I accept my current physical condition as an ongoing process. As you know, Carol and her children moved in with her new boyfriend last year. What you don't know is that my life has been on a downward spiral ever since. Soon I lost my job, stopped paying my bills, stopped communicating, sadly, even with you. I stopped everything. Well, not everything. But the bottle became my companion. As bleak as and teary, as bleak as our childhood was, I still envisioned our house in the decent condition my mom kept it in during our youth. So when I arrived here 2 days ago, I was horrified to see how dilapidated it was. From the weather and the corrosion of time, the roof and wood frame had taken on a sickly appearance, and the whole surrounding neighborhood is not looking its best, as if a disease has spread from our house and infected the whole town. Nearer and inside, as you can see, it's even worse. No electricity, no water, dirt, mold, and the stench of neglect fill the air. The wooden floors are rotten, the painted walls are cracked, and the wallpaper is peeling. I didn't look around much, since there wasn't much to memorize. No matter how drunk I was, my aim was unclouded. I entered the kitchen, cluttered with rat feces and cobwebs, and was almost disappointed to find the outer drawer of the kitchen table dilapidated and its steel handle rusted through. Upon opening the drawer, however, I got the shock I expected. And empty, clean, unchanged by time. Which you see for yourself, Thomas, but I warn you, don't put anything in the drawer, not yet. With great curiosity, I examined the box. First, I tried to pull it out by sliding it along the rails, but it wouldn't come out. Then I felt the inside of the crate. Every inch was hard and smooth. I carefully examined the metal wheels and guides and found them to be shiny and intact. And to Keller, it's illogical that the drawer is not removable, and even more illogical that it should be in such excellent condition after 2 decades of careless handling. But as you may recall, this drawer has a history. Mom always complained that the closet was too big to store important papers in. Nevertheless, it became the only place in the house where she and Dad put all sorts of things, and it was Mom who said the drawer was eating up the contents. It was bills, letters, pens and pencils. Whenever Dad would get furious because a bill or something with important information was missing, Mom would swear that she had put it in the drawer and now it was gone. Dad would often hit at her. She would later tell us that as punishment, the drawer would eat everything she lost. We agreed, but how awful it was for Mom to feel patronized by her own children when she had black eyes and swollen lips. Fasten your heart, dear brother, for you must read the words you never allowed me to utter in person, respecting your wishes. I have kept a dark secret that not even Carol and the police officers who questioned us that night are privy to. The night my dad killed my mom, I saw the drawer eating something, and his bottle had been hanging around all day doing nothing when someone came to the farmhouse and handed him an envelope. You and Mama were upstairs. The man left and Daddy opened the envelope right in front of me. Since we had always lived poor, my eyes must have opened as wide as Dad's at the sight of all that money. I saw two things for the first time, my $100 bills and Dad's smile. He cheered as he counted out loud the $5,000. Notice, this was not our shared moment. I was a witness. He was too drunk to see me sitting on the corner of the desk doing my homework. I saw him put the money back in the envelope and walk over to the kitchen cabinet. He opened the drawer, put the money in there, and closed it. Then he went back into the living room to share the news with a bottle and call someone on the house phone. Mom came downstairs and started doing the dishes. I swear to you, brother, she didn't open that drawer, but when Dad hung up the phone and went back into the kitchen, the first thing he did was open it. His face said it all. The rage was like turning on a light switch. Dad threw everything out of the drawer until there was nothing left in there. He accused her of stealing his money. She didn't know what he was talking about. But that didn't stop him from hurting her. Eventually, my father noticed me. I had to endure several blows and also denied that I had stolen his money. He sent me to my room, and there I stayed like a coward while Mom fought until her last breath. I always admired you for climbing out of your bedroom window, going to the neighbors, and calling the police. I'm glad my dad was caught, literally, red-handed. Blood on him, on the saw he supposedly dismembered her with, and blood all over the kitchen. Everywhere but the drawer. The cops said the father had a plastic bag in the drawer that he kept putting body parts in, but they were never able to determine where the body parts went. Mom was gone. All her parts were gone. All that was left was a crime stain, which was a sad irony because she hated messes in the kitchen. Mom would probably shudder at the thought of it, turning into a bloody stain one day. Dad was drunk at the time of his confession, but it was still admissible in court when he told the police officers on the scene that he had killed his wife in a fit of rage. He never admitted to dismembering her despite all the blood evidence. Could Barb, my dench, her bloody clothes were found on the kitchen floor. When asked how he disposed of her body, from his first confession to his dying words in the prison hospital, he always answered the same thing. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Yesterday I woke up on the rotten kitchen floor, having passed out from drunkenness on my first night back in 26 years. I immediately went out and bought another bottle, just like Dad. I came back here to the scene of the crime and the bottle, and I opened our souls. Why didn't I try to save my mom? Did Dad do to her body what I think he did? Does the box really eat the stuffing? Letters, pens and pencils, flesh, bones, organs and hair. Angry at the questions, oppressions, the bottle, and I conducted an experiment. I found scissors, a rock from the street, a license plate from my car, and put all three items in a drawer. I closed it for just a second, and then opened it again. Paper, scissors, no rock. Stunned, I examined the drawer. Then I closed the cabinet and opened it again. And scissors, no paper. I closed and opened it a third time. Empty. I don't mean to sound insensitive given the subject matter, but I was excited because I proved my mom right. The drawer does eat the contents. It eats when it is opened and closed. If there is more than one item in the crate, when you open and close it, something is bound to get chewed on. And if there is only one item, it will be eaten. That's why the police never found Mom's body, because Daddy cut her into pieces and helped the box chew her up. I'm sorry to be so harsh. It must have started out as a cruel revenge. He put part of her body in the box. Or he must have been shocked when that part disappeared. Then, perhaps out of stubborn disbelief, he put a second part of her body in the box. When it happened again, I think he saw it as a way to cover up his crime. That's how Mom became mincemeat. The box eats whatever it's fed, even if it's dead. We'll call it supernatural, call it divine, call the box whatever you want, but it is a living thing. The magnitude of this unusual realization gave me a strange surge of energy. I smiled for a moment, just like my father did when he saw that money. And just like my father, my mood quickly soured when I heard a knock on the front door and Carol shouts. Carol walked in. I hugged her, signed the divorce papers, and told her to tell the kids that I loved them. She left embarrassed but satisfied. I have never succumbed to abuse and never will. I guess I'm not like my father after all. It made me realize that maybe I don't need to drink like my father either. Encouraged, I picked up the bottle and headed for the drawer. I stuck the bottle in the drawer and closed it. I was drunk, mind you. All 4 of my fingers were in the drawer as I closed it. I felt a touch. Nothing else. I opened it. The drawer had eaten one of my fingers. The bottle was still there. I still had 3 of my 4 fingers, but the middle finger was gone. There was no pain. The skin on my finger was smooth, as if the finger had been surgically removed and healed anew. The reason I wasn't scared was because I was pissed off about it. I wanted my finger back. I was drunk, and so I did something stupid. I pulled out the bottle and stuck my whole hand in it. I closed the drawer with the urge to open it and reattach my finger. The light tapping at the base of my thumb was barely perceptible, but proved significant when the drawer accepted my palm, thumb, and 3 remaining fingers as a single stuffing. The hand disappeared around my wrist. I stared at the knot at the end of my hand in bewilderment. There was no pain, but I'm sure I was in shock as I shoved my hand into the box and screamed for him to replace my hand right now. I drunkenly slammed the box shut, covering it with my hand. And then I stood up. Yes, the box had eaten my arm. With my other hand, I fumbled for the noob on my shoulder blade where my arm used to be. I remember laughing and feeling dizzy, and then I passed out on the kitchen floor for the 2nd time since arriving. When I woke up, I had a strange sensation of a missing limb. It felt like all my fingers were attached to the hand that I thought was attached to my arm. I'm not talking about phantom limbs. I'm talking about the fact that wherever my hand was, it was whole again. Working, I could touch my missing fingers. I could flick my thumb and middle finger. That was the first part of me that was gone, and now it was in place. I felt my missing hand crawl across the unfamiliar floor. Then I bent my arm at the elbow and fumbled above my armpit for the nub where my arm ended. The box eats whatever it is fed, even if it is something living. My revelation inclines me to think that the box doesn't care if you're dead, alive, or in pieces. The important thing is that it reassembles you on the other side, wherever that may be. This raises the questions. Has Mom managed to reunite piece by piece? And if so, has she perhaps become alive again? Well, dear brother, that's exactly what I intend to find out. To begin, I got a notepad and pen out of my car and sat down at the kitchen table. Then I called your cell phone. You must come soon, as I have no reason to think you will not come to try to save me from the fire in this house I am in. You've always been a hero. Now it's time for me to go, one piece at a time. After all, part of me is already there, wherever it is. The rest of me is catching up with me, that's all. Sitting down on the counter, I slipped one foot into the drawer and closed it. I felt only a slight tapping, but nothing more than that. I lifted my foot and stared at the spot where the foot used to be. I wiggled the toes of the missing foot and felt them moving somewhere, waiting for me. To say it wasn't easy is an understatement, but I managed to maneuver well enough to help the box eat me. After I fed it my other foot, I took turns slipping my feet into the box until my feet disappeared from my knees downward. Then I sort of slid down into the box all the way to my belly button. With my only remaining hand, I reached up and closed the box. I felt a pat on my lower body and suddenly started to fall. Luckily, my hand caught the edge of the sink and I was able to pull myself up and stand on the counter. I'm half human. From my stomach to my head, I have one hand to finish this letter and sink into the drawer. Then I will stuff myself inside and slide the drawer shut, reconnecting with the rest of myself. Once again, I remind you to check the floor for fingers in case I lose them when I close the drawer. And if I lose them, be sporty and throw them in there one at a time. I'd hate to be incomplete wherever I go. If I turn out to be right and Mom is around, I'll tell her you love her. Who knows, you might even decide to join us. Arthur.
Dear Arthur, I received your letter and realized that your last attempt was not as expected. As I entered the kitchen, I came across your crawling hand. Startled, I stomped my foot on it without realizing what it meant. I hope this act didn't cause you any unnecessary pain wherever you were. The crate's addiction to consumption was evident when I threw your hand into it. An ironic choice. The drawer seems to influence our behaviors. After reading your letter, I opened the drawer again, pondering its unusual power. I hope your hand found you in good health. Let me share a secret I've kept. During the tragic events you described, I witnessed my dad stuffing my mom piece by piece into the drawer. This memory haunted me, explaining my reluctance to discuss that day. I was plagued by nightmares, imagining Mom in a surreal place, put together in pieces, but not alive. Last night in my dream you were standing next to her, both whole and yet fragmented. These visions torment me, thwarting any attempt to join you. Putting the notebook in a drawer, I plan to set the place on fire, severing its connection to the sinister force. The drawer's insatiable appetite will end with this letter. Goodbye, brother. I love you. Toss.